last week on Legally Kidnapped.
Good evening. Our top story this week. An Ohio social worker was put on administrative leave after a video suggested that she raised no objections when a man seeking Medicaid benefits told her he was a drug dealer with an expensive car and a 12-year-old sister working as a prostitute. In California, the deaths of 2 children are being blamed on lapses in LA County's child welfare system. The group is pushing to ban the teaching of gay history in California's schools. And a toddler's death has led to the end of a contract with a foster care agency. In Florida this week, more and more grandparents are seeking child custody rights. DCF announces more changes after the death of another kid under their watch. And the state declines millions in federal money for child protective programs as Governor Rick Scott continues to block federal health care reform from entering the state. In Connecticut, a new law will require agencies to deal with animal abuse to share information with the child protective industry. The child protective industry in Illinois is ordered by the court to continue doing business with Catholic charities regardless of their stance on the gay rights issue. In Kentucky, the number of children being raised by someone other than their parents skyrockets. And the trial begins in an ex-social worker's $2 million whistleblower claim against the state of Kentucky after working conditions become unbearable when she reported the wrongdoings of her supervisors. In Texas, Governor Rick Perry signs the Who's the Daddy bill into law, giving accused fathers the right to challenge paternity with DNA tests. The child advocacy group Children's Rights congratulates Michigan for putting their foster care reforms back on track. As a mother whose kid was wrongfully snatched for refusing to give her dangerous psych meds which she didn't need continues to fight. And a judge rules that the lawsuit brought on by Children's Rights against the child protective industry in the state of Rhode Island may move forward. A Pennsylvania father is ordered to take down his website, The Psycho Ex-Wife, which outlines his divorce and child custody battle, sparking a free speech test. U.S. foster kids are aging out of care at high rates, costing society a tremendous amount of money. And a media firestorm erupts over a doctor's claims that fat kids belong in foster care. In Iceland this week, a child protective worker was beaten by 4 teenagers at a treatment facility. A couple who had been deported back to Mexico wins custody of their kids after giving testimony in the U.S. over Skype. In New Zealand, 2 foster parents are charged with the child abuse of 4 boys, including using a wire brush to scrub them. And 2 people from Norway who had to have a child using a surrogate mother have been informed by the Norwegian state that they are not its legal parents. In Saudi Arabia, a group of orphans is complaining that social workers are not treating them with respect and dignity and that they are being ignored by the Ministry of Social Affairs. And in Yemen, a group of Al-Qaeda terrorists is planning to release a cartoon aimed at recruiting young children. In Ireland this week, children are being used as pawns in divorce proceedings. The Irish child protective industry is continuing to fail vulnerable children. The Vatican is being accused of trying to cover up sexual abuse by priests in Ireland, a charge which the church is denying. And Catholic priests are being threatened with up to 5 years in prison if they don't break the sacrament of confession in regards to child abuse admissions. In Australia this week, a senator calls for a boycott against American-style child beauty contests. In Canada, a caseworker from Ottawa is arrested for drunk driving with 2 kids in the car. Protesters in Ontario are demanding ombudsman oversight of the child protective industry due to a lack of accountability within the system. A grandmother from Alberta gets a protest going against the attempted cover-up of the death of her grandchild in a foster home. And in British Columbia, the child protective industry has been underreporting the injuries of children in the province's foster care system. In England this week, the Daily Mail is being sued by one of the Baby P social workers who had been cleared of any wrongdoing. And one of the doctors who failed Baby P is allowed to go back to work after a 12-month suspension and a new understanding of the error of his ways. A group of fathers dress up as comic book superheroes and hold a protest at a military base in support of equal rights for dads. The Kent County Council is set to replace its flawed child protective computer equipment. Social workers fail 3 children who were abused by their adopted parents because they were afraid of the parents' high social status as doctors. And child protective snatchers are set to get nice little cash bonuses in Cornwall. In entertainment news this week, Camille and Kelsey Grammer come to a child custody agreement. And MTV's Teen Mom talks about Amber Portwood's child protective services troubles. A couple from Kentucky is charged with abusing their adopted children by locking them up in a dog rib cage and strangling them and forcing them to jump off the roof. An aged-out foster kid from California is sent to a state hospital for stabbing his foster father with a knife. A 13-year-old from Florida was arrested for setting his foster brother on fire. And a Maryland woman is charged with trying to ram a Child and Family Services employee with her minivan. In Pennsylvania, a judge is set to be sentenced in a Cash for Kids kickback scheme for receiving millions in exchange for harsh sentences where kids were sent to privately owned juvenile detention facilities. In Oklahoma, a hearing is delayed for a judge who is charged with adoption fraud. A Mississippi foster parent is convicted of sex crimes against foster children. A foster parent from New Mexico gets 30 years for raping his foster daughter. A North Carolina woman is charged with having sex with kids at a juvenile detention facility. And a North Carolina civil court finds that an adoptive father aided and abetted his wife in the suffocation of a kid back in 2006. In Florida, a mother who attempted to rescue her 2 kids back from the foster care system is captured and the kids are taken back into foster care. In Maryland, a real mother snatches her kid back from the foster care system. In Mississippi, a couple who was found guilty of chaining their children to the bed will retain their parental rights after the judge orders social workers to help get the services for their family so that such things never happen again. And federal agents recover more than $400,000 from the life insurance policy that was left to a foster child by his dead parents and then stolen by his foster parents. In New Jersey, a group attempts to address the problem of children bouncing from home to home by getting them new suitcases. A Pennsylvania mother sues the child protective industry for improperly snatching her kid after a positive drug test was triggered by a poppy seed bagel. A court in Utah refuses to give a kid back to the real father after being given up for adoption by the mother without his consent. In Washington, a teenager who had been in 22 different foster homes takes his own life. And finally, tonight, a CPS supervisor from Vermont is charged with animal cruelty for allegedly chucking a brick at a family's rooster. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.